Hey there, this is Andrew, and I'm doing something a little different than I've done before. I'm going to bring you a tier list, totally my opinions about Logos cards in Keyforge. So I'm going to try to cover every Logos card. I'm going to try to go through it quickly. I'm using tiermaker.com. Obviously, if you want Keyforge stuff, you go to keyforgegame.com, keyforging.com, archonarcana.com, dexofkeyforge.com. Those are all great resources. Um, I'm not going off of anybody else's lists, although of course I use Dex and Keyforge all the time, so I can't pretend that I might not be influenced sometimes by those thoughts or other people's thoughts. But these really are my spur of the moment. I didn't plan any of this thoughts about what's good and what's not. So yeah, let's get right into it. And I might have a duplicate in here somewhere, I think, but I don't think I'm missing anything. The real danger here is like having a duplicate and ranking it differently both times, but then you can just call me on that and it's fine. All right, so we're going to go through creatures, then actions, then artifacts, then upgrades. That's my plan anyway. All right, so we're going to start with Ganymede Archivist. I think this is a solid middle of the pack card. It's very strong if you get to reap with it, but it's slow, so yeah. Mm, Clicked in the wrong place. All right. Let's see. So Bat Drone, I'm going to put on C tier. Yeah, it's similar, but the fight doesn't do much. Stealing is good, but if you're trying to win a game, archiving can actually be better. So, and 2 power versus 3, that's a significant bump down. Okay, Dexter, I'm going to put in D tier. Most of the time, I think Dexter is just bad. I have a deck that uses Dexter really well due to some other cards that it can combo with, but pretty, yeah, not usually excited to see it. Titan Mechanic, I'm just going to put a 6 because it's such a beefy body. Doc Bookton, I also think the effect is probably a little lower than Ganymede Archivist, but the upped power is pretty good. Quixo, I also think a little low. Uh, yeah, decent effect, but drawing a card in the middle of your turn, if it's just one, not that strong. If you can do a lot of draws, then you're probably going to get a card or two you could use. Escoterra, this is like probably high D tier, maybe low C tier. Okay, Brain Eater. I think, yeah, I put this up here in B. It's tough. It doesn't have the skirmish, but it's big. It might be that these 6s should be down in C. I'll have to think more about it. Mother is a really strong effect, partially just because it's passive, and partially because card draw that happens in between turns is generally stronger than card draw in the middle of your turn, because card draw in between turns can factor into your decision about what you're going to do with your turn. There it is. I have a duplicate Mother. Got it. Okay. Yeah, so card draw in the middle of your turn, you can't pivot. So if you get a card that you can't play, sorry. Yeah, and even if you have the card at the beginning of your turn, maybe you need to order it specifically, whereas some cards you draw in the middle of your turn and you can play them, but it would have been nice to play earlier. Okay. Dr. Varoctor is quite strong. Put an upgrade or action card from your discard pile on top of your deck. That's quite strong. Low power. I think I'm going to put this in S tier only because of what it comes with. So when you get the whole package together of Dr. Varoctor with groundbreaking discovery, etc., like it just Rooftop Lab, it's really strong. All right, next we're getting into the bots. So these are 6 creatures from Mass Mutation that they all have Reap, discard a card from your hand if you do draw a card, but they have other different effects because of this kind of the Mass Mutation hybrid card thingy. So, for example, Sacrobot is bigger and has 2 armor. This is a really good one. It sticks on the board, and I should say all these bots I think are really good effects. They stick on the board, and they do good work. So that Reap effect is strong. Some of the other effects that go with them are less strong. This one is nice because it provides survivability. This one still has that Reap effect, but the skirmish effect is dumb, so I'm going to put it below Doc Bookton. This Dino one is a bit stronger. Gives you the ability to destroy something as it's on its way out, and it's pretty survivable. That actually might. It's kind of nice and versatile. This one with the destroyed steel 1 effect, that's extra good. Because if it sticks on the board, you get to use it, and if not, you steal. So that's very nice. The one with the fight ability, even worse than the one with skirmish, I think. You could argue with me on that. And the one with elusive, that's nice survivability. I like it. Discarding a card and drawing a card is stronger than just drawing a card because discarding a card that you choose is almost always strong. I'm not going to fully explain that here, I guess, but I think it's always strong. Chronophage, that's super good. Yeah, that's just a really strong effect. So what it does, let me see here. What Chronophage does is your opponent's creatures and artifacts gain Omega. And that, yeah, that's super good. The evil Chronophage interesting. How do I even find this on Archon Arcana? I'm using Archon Arcana on my other screen to just because I don't remember what excuse me, what the Evil Twin version does, and I feel pretty silly about that, but here we are. It's in here somewhere. Haha, that's a reference for you. That's not an evil chronophage. It's an evil binary moray. Wow, I'll come back to that. There's not an evil chronophage. Okay. Hapsis. Stronger than Quixo and Brain Eater, I think. It's pretty good. I actually even think it's nicer than Doc Bookton because oftentimes you can find a good use for it. Time Traveler, that's really good. The fact that it comes with help from Future Self, even better. Sanitation Engineer, I'm going to say high D tier. It's not. I mean, the Reap discard is good and Hazardous is good. If it had Taunt, even better, but it does not. So it's often just kind of a 4-power body. Titan Engineer, really similar to Titan Mechanic. I think those go together. Cost Manipulation is interesting. Igor, deck filtering is super good. Am I putting too many things in S tier? Maybe so. Adaptoid, I'm going to say C tier because in theory it could be quite good, but in practice I think it's often very lackluster. Skippy Time Hog absolutely wins games. It's a very strong effect. Even though it's only once when you play it, it's still a very strong control effect. Can you tell I like control? Ultra Graviton, super good. Archive the top 5 cards of your deck, and then it can purge stuff. That's super good. Smoko, Research Smoko. I'm going to put in B tier. It just doesn't do much, but the destroyed effect is nice. Bot Bookton. It's tough. It just doesn't fire a lot. It doesn't have even like, look at this compared to these hybrid creatures that I put up here. They all have a little more survivability or an additional benefit, and I think Bot Bookton doesn't quite have that. Can be good. Maybe if it turned up in a set with well, I guess you could fire it with library card, but it's pretty rare. Literally. Okay, Daughter, definitely up there with Mother. Prescriptive Grammar Bot. So this I'm going to put in B tier. I think, well, no, I'll put it in C. I mean, it's nice. Taunt and Hazardous 3. It's nice to have something like that in Logos, but 3 is still low enough. It's not going to do a ton. Let's see. Even Ivan and Odd Claude. Uh, they're fine, but they don't win games. I mean, sometimes they do win games, but they can be the thing that pushes you over the edge, but they're not part of the core game plan. Fila, I think, can be used really well, but generally it's like draw one card and she's one power elusive, so I think not that good. Jargoggle is kind of there with Smoko, similar power level, I think. Um, probably I need more stuff in D tier. Yeah, we just Mother duplicate here. Neutron Shark definitely very strong, very strong. And then the Curator, I find almost never matters. Theoretically, it could. It just almost never does. Um, Archimedes, very interesting. Can certainly matter. Very good in like certain combos, but generally kind of a nothing. Maybe it could be a B, but I think it's fine there. Dr. Millie, similar. Like it can be really good, but usually it's kind of lackluster. Is that unfair? I mean, archive. Let's say you archive two cards. Is it good? Is it better than Ganymede Archivist, where you maybe get one if you're lucky before your opponent kills it? That's a good question. Maybe I'm wrong about Dr. Millie, but I think maybe because I like board decks, I'm often ahead on board and it'll literally do nothing. Captain Crusade, I think both good and evil are kind of boring. Infomorph, the draw pips are interesting. Does that make it a C? It really depends on where the pips land. Okay, we can make it a C. Code Monkey, very interesting combo enabler, kind of like Archimedes. I'm going to put it in C. That might be controversial. Vespelon Theorist, also kind of it's a cool theory, but doesn't often work. Titan Guardian, I think having such a beefy taunt with a powerful destroyed effect in Logos is actually super nice. So I think Titan Guardian goes in B tier. Munchling, I will put in C. Like it's okay. It's up there with like Bat Drone and Quixo. Like it can be a good effect. It can combo nicely, but generally it's not that great. Cronus is very good. It provides the pips. If you get it with more pips, it's real good. It's very common to get to archive one or two cards off of it, and sometimes way more. So I think that's really good. Seaborg, I'm going to put on D tier only because like that effect is just to raise the tide, which is already kind of a lackluster thing. Helperbot, this is like solid B tier, maybe A. Helperbot's a really good card. Reassembling Automaton, I'm going to say high C. Like on its own, it's very boring. You can do interesting stuff with it, but it's sometimes it's pretty boring. Quant is going to go in B and C. I could make a case for Quant being B tier. My personal experience is that it's so often when it does fire, you still can't get great value out of it. So that's rough. Babbling Bibliophile, I'm going to say is B, but it really depends on it living. It's tough if it doesn't live, but Reap Draw 2 is quite good. Replicator is another like really interesting card. Can be amazing, can be bad. Maybe because sometimes it just doesn't fire. Sometimes there's nothing for it to do, and it's low power anyway. Maybe it belongs in C. It's tough. That's a tough one. Talmadge Steelheart, definitely going to go in D. If you really hit the combo, it becomes a big body, and that just seems kind of silly to me. What's the evil version here? Deal damage. Like, I think that's actually maybe a little better. To deal damage to an enemy creature equal number of cards you've played this turn, including this one. Like that potentially does a little more work. So maybe that's low C tier. E-Dive, very good. Archive a card plus it bumps key cost, and it has some survivability too. Armadrone, I'm going to put high D because it really doesn't often work out. Even worse than Bat Drone because it doesn't even have the skirmish. and the evil one's I think even worse. Dysania S tier for sure. Like that, turning off your opponent's archives is real good. Uh, okay, Bilge Warden's interesting, but again, so tide specific. So it can be a cool combo enabler, but eh. Zenzi is going to be, I'm going to say A tier. Maybe even better than Mother, but it depends on what you can do with it. Cronus might be above these. It's real good. Let's see. Wormhole Tech. I love this card. Actually, I love Wormhole Technician. I'd probably put it even above Babbling Bibliophile. Like yeah, it's real good. Up there with Bob Bookton. I mean, you can't play an off-house card, but sometimes that's even better than playing it. You have less variability, right? Because you know, okay, if it's one of this set of cards, then it'll get played, but if it's in this category, it'll just get archived, which could be better. QMEX is good, but I'm going to put in B tier because if you get pips on it, QMEX is suddenly real good, but otherwise meh. Old EGAD, I think usually not great. The evil one even worse. Binary Moray I think is great. I love Binary Moray, and I love it. I love getting to get multiple reefs with it. It's actually more survivable than Ganymede Archivist to begin with. So it's super good. The evil one just has skirmish. That's like such a bummer. I mean, it's worse than Quixo. I don't even know. Like, I guess it's better than Infomorph, maybe. I don't know, but Infomorph has pips. All right, that is it. Oh, no, it's not. That's a lie. All right, we're still going. Valen Analyst, C tier. Like, it can do something interesting, but it often doesn't, and it's just very specific, and it's low power. Garwin is kind of interesting. I'm going to put it kind of by quant. It's just kind of iffy whether you'll get to use it effectively. There's a lot of things that have to be true. The evil one is like that effect, but on fight. I guess it's fine. Sutterkin, A tier, only because he struggles to live. But otherwise he could be S. I think better than Babbling Bibliophile, both because he often has the capability to fire for more and because he's more survivable. I would say it's like witch level good. Hexbion is similar to Research Smoko, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse, depending on how you think about it. Okay, ZYX Researcher. This is a very good card. Getting to either archive just the flexibility of saying either archive the top card of your discard or the top card of your deck is very nice. Titan Librarian, getting to archive a card at the end of every turn, also extremely good. That's real good. It's a little finicky, but quite good. This is, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's up there with Mother and Daughter for sure. Director of ZYX, similar, just so good. That's just great efficiency. I think better than. I think it's such a good card. Is it better than? I think Time Traveler kind of gets bumped down here. All right. Uh, Novu Dynamo, also very good. And it's such a big body, too. I love it. You get to filter. It's just real good. Nova Archaeologist, I'm going to say B. It can be really good. It's not always. It just depends. But it's survivable enough. It can be really nice. And you get to choose any card from your discard. That's great. Osmo's bad. Vellum and Hide. These are interesting. I think B tier. If you can get them to fire, they're really good. I mean, look, um, this is like, yeah, they can be better if you have both of them. It's just they're a little less survivable, and um, sometimes they're just other things I'd rather have. Group Think Tank is B tier. It can be really interesting and shape a game. Whereas Mini Group Think Tank, I think, is A tier. Like the ability to immediately have an impact and do more work, I think is really good. Let's see. PI Sweven is actually really good. Um, Up there with Sutterkin, I think. The evil one is like, it's okay. Let's see. Terato is a very interesting one in any case. Difficult to place him really because of other stuff. There's a lot of well, it depends there. Um, Candle Unit, a very interesting one. I think it's like pretty high B tier, maybe even low A tier. Like your opponent has to do something about it. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Pip Pip, kind of B tier. It can slow your opponent down, but it's not winning you the game. Mimic Gel really depends, but I think it's very good. And same with Cyberclone. These might go. I mean, they might be S. It's difficult to say. Um, it is difficult to say. Let's see. Harlan Mindlock. That's a really interesting one. I'm going to put it kind of in B tier. It's such low power that it's really hard to make the case for putting it into A tier. But if you can do good work with it, it becomes really amazing. Let's see. Self-replicating automaton. Where did I put the self-healing or reassembling? Yeah. So I think it's actually a little better, but it just depends. And it's a fun, interesting card. The Archivist, in theory, interesting. In practice, almost never good. I'm tempted to put it in D, but I think there's just enough potential. Project ZYX, if you can get it to fire, so interesting, but similar, like, I just don't know. And Psychic Bug, cool, but kind of meh. Actually, I think B just because it has that pip, maybe. Yeah, that's interesting only because of that. Part of the problem is there's not a lot of times in Logos where that knowledge is really useful. So maybe it helps you with like a control the weak on the following turn, but it's not going to help you on your Logos turn. Okay, on to actions. Causal loop, I'm going to put in C tier. It's actually almost like worse than archiving because you have to get causal loop back out with it, so then it's clogging your hand with that Logos. If you get pips on it, it's real good, but otherwise, I think it's not that great. Phase Shift is an A tier card. Should Helperbot be A tier? I think maybe. They're both so, yeah, it's such a good effect. Data Forge, interesting, but kind of meh. Doesn't often work out. I'm going to say high C. Think Twice is real good. That's A tier. It could even be S tier. Like, Um, it's very good. Let's see, library card. That's definitely S tier. Definitely high. Well, high A or S. It's one of those. Yeah, it can really fizzle, but if you get a good one, it's real good. So that's kind of tough. Information exchange. I'm going to say B tier. It can be good, but it's not a game shaper. Effervescent is A tier, I would say, along with Submersive Principle. Those can really have a huge impact on the game. Theory or Conjecture, that's a really good efficiency card. Um, Archive the top 2 cards of your deck is real good. So is play the top card of your deck. I might put it like high B only because, yeah, it has that flexibility, but it's missing the pip compared to Lab Work or sorry, Wild Wormhole or Eclectic. Let's see. Opposition research. I'm going to say B tier. Can be quite good, but it's hypothetical. Dimension Door also kind of like good in theory, not in practice. Eclectic definitely in A tier. Entropic Swirl A tier. I'm going to say. I'm not necessarily doing a good job of fixing the rankings within a tier, so deal with it. Fogify, I'm going to put C tier. Usually not a game changer. Sometimes it can be, so I'm not a. I don't hate it. I would just say it's iffy. Science D, it just never quite works out. Eureka, I think it goes in A tier as long as you have 1 or 2. Knowledge is power. I really like knowledge is power. I think this could be, archive a card. It's good. Or it can be quite a lot of amber generation in some circumstances. Positron, I think, is really good. Help from Future Self, probably a B tier card on its own, but I mean, really good in the context of pulling out the time traveler. Forgive or Forget is going to be A tier. Master the Theory is D for sure. Diametric Charge, not as good as Positron, but it's okay. Lab Work is going to be A tier. I think, yeah. And Sloppy Lab Work is like high A tier. Mind over Matter. It's an interesting one, but very situational. I'm going to say B. Final Analysis, also kind of interesting, but risky. I'm going to say B. Groundbreaking Discovery is actually, I think, the weakest part of the Dr. Voractor setup, because so often it's not going to fire, and if it does, it wrecks your setup. So it's kind of you kind of don't want to play it if you have it, but it can win the game. It's just I think you usually don't want to play it. Bouncing Death Quark is real good. I'm going to put that in A tier. Such targeted destruction. Tau Tau is going to be A tier for sure. Really good deck efficiency. Standardized testing, again, I think B. Lab work is, I think, A tier. Thorium Plasmate, so often bad. It's probably C tier. Remote access can be quite good, but it depends. I'll put it in C. Mind Bullets is D tier. Poke is D tier. Archon's Callback also D tier. Like theoretically, it could be quite good to draw 5 cards at the end of your turn, but most of the time you don't want to have to do that. Honor's Kesis, I think, goes up there with Data Forge, but she purges herself, so maybe worse. Random Access Archives, it's a cool effect, but comparable to like Smoko, right? Or Hexbion. It's definitely not as good as these targeted archive cards. Um, reverse time. I think C tier, although it could be better than that. It definitely could be. Kurzap, another like interesting destruction card. It just depends on the circumstance. Let's see. Twin bolt emission. I think it goes up here. Nero siphon. It can be pretty good. I'm gonna say like mid B tier. If it gets you the draw, it's great, but if it doesn't, it's kind of meh. Wild Wormhole. I'm gonna say A. Some will hate me for that, but it's a good efficiency card and it's good in combos and it's good out of combos. You just don't know what you're gonna get. Cutthroat Research. I'm gonna say high C. Often just a pip, but when it hits, it's cool. Interdimensional Graft can be a real game maker, game changer. I'm going to put that in the S tier. People have to play around it. Binary Rupture, I'm going to say C tier because it often is actually really bad. In combination with Interdimensional Graft, it can be good, but on its own, it's actually quite a rough card that's just often a discard. And even then, you kind of have to get it together with the other stuff, which is not great. What card even is that? For each creature. Oh, backup plan. Yeah, it's like Dr. Millie, I guess, as an action. I don't think it's great. Scrambler Storm, real good. Possibly S tier, at least high A tier. It's a real good card. It might belong in S tier, really. Okay, Fission Bloom. I'm going to say C. It often just doesn't matter. Sometimes it's nice. Animator, I'm going to say B. It can be super good, but it's circumstantial for sure. Australis, I'm going to say maybe high B because in theory it sounds good, but oftentimes exhaust 3 creatures that you could have reaped with to draw 3 cards is actually not that great. Mecha Buoy. It's a fun combo card. Again, not usually a game changer, I think. Isotropic Core, I'll say similar. Like, it's okay, but not the best. Autoencoder, very good. S tier for sure. Hydro Cataloger. Again, combo enabler, but not that great. Library card. I'm going to say A tier. It can set up some really interesting stuff, and having it in the same set with Letho actually is real good. The problem with it is that it's worse than library card because it's susceptible to artifact control. So that's a little rough. Rooftop Laboratory is definitely an S tier card. Setting most of your creatures to interplay ready via an artifact is real good. Fetch Drones, I'm going to say, is a B. It can be good. I mean, capturing 4 is good if you can get that. Capturing 2 is real good. I think that's actually real good. Quantum Finger Trap, usually pretty bad. Forge Compiler, I'm going to say C. It's not your game plan, but it can be good. Seismo Entangler, I would not have said it's super good before, but I'm going to put it as high B because it's quite good to be able to say you can't reap with this house. That's actually really good. Strange. Wait, I'll come back. Mutagenic. Kind of good in theory, but often not in practice. I'm going to say high C. Universal Key Lock. B. It just depends. Howling Pit. I'm going to say high C. It can be good, but it helps your opponent too, so it's kind of risky in that way. Strange Gizmo, I'm going to say also high C. It can be interesting, but mostly it's like you want it because you didn't get other cards that would have fit the bill better. Hologramophone, I'm going to say B, only because it's so good with some of the good creatures, but it really depends on what creatures you got. Crazy Killing Machine. That's going to be a B. It's unreliable, but for when it hits what you want, it's super good. Spectral Tunneler, maybe a B. Like it's basically, well, high C. It's good for a reap, but you have to have a ready creature, and so it has to be ready, and you have to have a ready creature. That's rough. Tide Warp. Okay, so this is an interesting one. If you have the right combos with it, it's quite good. So I'll put it in B tier. Anomaly Exploiter. I think I'm going to put in high C. It can be good, but eh. Pocket Universe, low C. It could be the thing that wins the game against certain combos. But usually it's like you're probably in a weak position if you're relying on that to win you the game. Spangler Box, very interesting. Dual-sided, so that's rough. B. Although really good if your opponent doesn't have Logos. Probably worse because Logos is a very good house that your opponent will often have. All right, I'm actually going to jump to Library of Babel and say this is like low B tier. I mean, it's a draw, but like it's a draw for every Logos turn. Uh, it might even be C. Yeah. Shard of Knowledge, on the other hand, is better because it'll often be a draw too. So it's a at worst it's as good as Library of Babel, and at best it's significantly better. So, but I think Memory Chip is even stronger. Memory Chip, I'm going to say, is A, going along with cards like well, it's not as good as Director, but it's more survivable. So I think that's about right. Ruins of Arconis, I'm going to say C. In Logos, you're probably going to be the one to get value out of it, but it's iffy. Scientifical Hack, cool in theory, not often good in practice. I've almost never seen it be good. I'm going to give it a D. Redacted, very good. It's just a little slow. I'm going to make it a high B. It just depends. If you get it early, amazing. Late, it's rough. Chaos Portal, so much guessing, right? I'm going to put that in high C. Autovac I love. It's an archive when you go Logos, but it's actually more it is more flexible than that. So I think it's like a high A. Notice a lot of these things in high A are actually things that just are you don't have to go into Logos for them to be good. Not everyone there, but a lot of them. Okay. Oh, Universal Recycling Bin. Very interesting. Rarely very good. So I'm going to put it in C, but it can be great. And then Mobius Strip. Another really interesting but hard to like use efficiently. I'll say kind of like Causal Loop, although I think a little better than Causal Loop. All right, last we're on to the upgrades here. Static Charge, I'm going to put in the. I think it's B. It can be really good. It can be quite good actually. Discombobulator is very good. This is going to be A tier. Being able to say no to your opponent stealing is super good. It is not necessarily advancing your plan, but it can be a real important piece to stop their plan. Experimental therapy, interesting in theory, again, not usually good in practice. And compare it with some other cards that don't do the stun and exhaust thing. I think it's almost like middle of the pack. See, Reckless Experimentation, I'm going to jump to, is actually real good. Partially, it's the reason it's better than a card like Bot Bookton is because you can use it the turn you play it. Rocket Boots, interesting in theory, usually bad in practice. And like compare that to Reckless Experimentation, has a pip on it too. Backup Plan, C tier, but it depends. It depends on what you get it with, or backup copy rather. Transposition Sandals, I would say low C. Maybe backup copy like should be B. And then Academy Training is iffy. I'm going to put it in B. It can be good. Yeah, it can be really good. It just depends on you have it. Well, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it probably goes along with like Reckless Experimentation because you get a reap out of a creature you wouldn't have gotten a reap out of. So that's actually pretty good. All right, there's my Logos tier list. Anything I would want to change, like Library Access could be S tier, but it needs setup. Think Twice is so good. Scrambler Storm is real good. Could maybe be S. Other than that, I think it's about right. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and that you'll get out there and forge some keys.